Bruce Willis, Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one with the Aerosmith song in the background?
Because you saw it coming.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it before. Like, I cried in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was in 6th grade. And I was with a girl. And I cried.
I mean, I can't think of a worse death, actually. That may be, like, if someone would have filmed you crying in front of the girl, that could have been the best death. You know what I mean? Like,
death of my manhood.
I love life. Yeah. Well, this is ending. Hey, what's up, guys? I got a couple upcoming dates I want to tell you about. Please come out and see me. I'm out here on the road telling jokes and having a good time, and I want you to be part of it. On the 16th, I will be filming part of the Who Said STL Ain't Funny at it's a Smokes and Jokes sponsored event, so you know it's going to be a good time. It's at the Westport Playhouse. You just go in, buy the entrances to the Funny Bone, go up the escalator. It's right there on the left. You can't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. The show starts at 7, and they're taping, so everyone needs to be in their seats by 6:45. Please come out to that. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be filmed. Keewan Murphy Lee, and they're putting it on. It's always a good time to do that. Then the next night, the 17th, I will be at Stand Up Downtown at the Crack Fox here in St. Louis. Please come out to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. On the 24th, I'll be doing a show with my buddy Nick Farner at DJ's World. He's got a little art studio down in downtown St. Louis. It's a lot of fun, but get there quick because it very regularly sells out. So you don't want to miss out just because you got there a little late. Then on the 25th, I will be with my buddy Enzo Nitti and my buddy Corey Schonhorst, who's been on the podcast before. We will be in Fenton, Missouri, doing a stand-up show to help. It's a charity event. We're doing it to help provide some relief for a family that really could use it. And it is a very good cause. But go to the website, check it out. I'm sure you'll see it, and you'll agree. It is for actually a very good cause. And then on the 26th, I will be at the Westport Funny Bone for the Best of the Midwest Showcase with my buddy Bryce Evans and Chris Oliver. And then I believe there's one more comedian on there, but I haven't met him yet. I'm sure he's great as well. But I know for sure you're going to enjoy the show. So come out, come see that, come see me on the road. And again, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Best Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Russler. Joining me this week is Corey Schonhorst. He's a comedian out of St. Louis. He also is the founder of Punchline Productions. You can follow them on Instagram at punchline_productions_314. He's a great guy. He does a lot of great work, does some charitable things, has some organizations going. We talk about it more in the episode. I really enjoyed it. We're a big fan of 90s stuff, so we talk a lot about that, but we also dabble into other things. We have a show coming out. We're doing a show together on the 25th of January in Fenton, Missouri. It's going to be great. It's at his building. It's a giant, I'm not sure if it's a warehouse, but it's a giant building. They have pickleball courts and they have all kinds of stuff, but it is all going for a charitable cause. It's always going for actually a really good cause in my opinion, but I'll let him tell you more about it in the episode. We had a great time. He's a great dude and I can't wait to work with him some more. Hope you enjoy the episode. Peace. So you were talking about you do a lot of work with, kind of ex-Special Forces guys or you're doing a lot with those projects and stuff. Were you in the military?
I was not. I was the only guy in my family not. So I was born with 2 holes in my heart.
Okay.
And so like the ongoing joke in my family was not even the Air Force would take me. And they don't have PT. And so that's kind of my way of being able to give back is just working with these different organizations. So my primary kind of source of income for quite some time and still is one is we help raise money for those organizations.
Nice.
So veteran organizations, first responders, but primarily military and veteran organizations.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, and the show on the 26th that we're doing. Fifth. My bad. Sorry. Yeah, that's one thing is I'm dyslexic. So like my numbers and letters and I'm always throwing out things. And then my wife's like, nope, that's not it.
That's fine.
And then,
I'm not dyslexic, and I do the same thing.
Yeah, I think it could just be I don't know. I'm a broken human too. So whatever. No, what were you saying about it? Tell me more about that. I was interested just so people know about it.
Sure, yeah. No, we work with some really cool organizations. I am honored enough to be on the board of Starlight Initiative. Starlight Initiative is relatively new, and what that is disaster relief, primarily field hospitals, field assistance. Can't call them hospitals. They aren't hospitals.
Yeah, there's probably all kinds of legal jargon and stuff like that.
Bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But what they do is they help provide care for those who need it at different levels. And typically this is in disaster zones. And along the way there, and then before that, I had worked with some organizations like Judges Rescue. And their primary goal is to help against sex trafficking from children. And they're an incredible organization. And not only do they do that, but they're in the process of building homes, helping displaced families. And typically these guys and women that help are ex-special forces individuals or retired military. Some are active duty, depending on when they have time. And then just great individuals, great patriots in the sense that they love the country. It's nothing political about it. Nobody goes into a disaster zone and asks who you vote for.
Right.
They just go in and help, and really, really good people. And it's kind of cool because it brings out the best in a lot of people in these situations.
Yeah, and you really, I don't know. I hear a lot of people talk about like how bad the world is getting, and that that seems to be a thing that when people talk about like, oh, the end of the world is going to come and then everyone's going to be terrible. It's like, no, there's still good people that are going to do good things. Like, yeah, there's going to be some bad people who do bad things, but that's what happens now.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. Everybody's so doom and gloom always, and I'm like, no, there's still going to be dudes that are going to try to help out and be like, well, I don't want you to die, so yeah, I'll help. You know, if you can. That's, I don't know. So I like that. I love a kind of a positive message to put out there, because it seems like everybody just everything that everyone's upset with these days. It seems like, oh, it's the end. It's
fun to sensationalize things for people.
Yeah,
right. Because we don't live in a movie.
Right.
And so people who haven't been in these situations or aren't in them every day, that, the kind of same individuals that might get upset that the Wi-Fi is not strong in certain areas are the same ones that want to think of everything as divisive and strange, when in actuality, at our core, most of us are pretty human beings. Like we're just the same type of individuals, that you're not going to watch someone suffer, and you're not going to – now, can I stop and give everybody that's, with a sign $1? No. But if a child is injured, or if somebody's misplaced from a disaster, like, yeah, here's what I have.
But am I going to not bandage someone who's bleeding?
Right.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like yeah. So good. I like that. I love positive things. I love it when people do positive stuff. I like that. So I asked you a couple questions beforehand of like things you're into and stuff. The whole idea of the podcast is, I say, anytime anybody says this is the best, it's just their opinion. There's no way to prove it. It doesn't mean you're an idiot or smart or whatever.
Right.
It's just your opinion. So I like to ask people their opinions, and like maybe we have a fun argument about, you think this is better than that. So a good starter question I usually ask people is the best flavor of Gatorade. Are you even a Gatorade man, or are you more? I
was a Gatorade boy.
Yeah, okay, but now I'm a Powerade man.
One thing that was crazy is because of I used to like eat, sleep, and drink basketball. Like that was my thing. I played all through school and beyond, and just for a year afterwards. But so lemon lime is the original flavor.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, I've learned that through doing this. I always thought it was orange.
No, lemon
lime.
My
whole life I was like, oh, it's orange.
Did you also learn why it's called Gatorade? Because this is something
Florida
State.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna have to go with Glacier Ice.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that the flavor of it?
Blue one?
It's a lighter blue.
Yep.
It was one of the first like off brands in the sense that they all had pretty basic flavors.
Right.
up until a certain point, and then they start coming like
Yeah, it was orange, lemon lime, fruit punch.
Yeah.
And then I get what you're saying.
Same thing as
Yeah.
like Crayola, right? Like growing up, there was like
okay.
12 crayons that were named by the color of the crayon, and then sometime in like middle school, they start coming up with stuff that was like seahorse.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what?
You remember the first time you saw an 18 pack and you were like, whoa,
Yeah.
you've got 6 more colors? And then that one kid had the 96 pack with the sharpener in the back, and you're
Right.
like, I've never even seen some of these.
You start questioning your grade school teachers about the color wheel.
Yeah.
You're like, I thought there were 6.
Yeah, what are we doing? No, I
So
do
Glacier
agree.
Ice.
Yeah, Glacier Ice. That's top tier. I used to love, and people hate me for this, but I used to love the cucumber
Cucumber lime.
Yes,
I was going to save that for my wild card. Dude, that's a great flavor.
it's a great flavor. It's
very refreshing.
But they changed it because I've since
Okay.
I don't drink a ton of Gatorade.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll be like, oh, that sounds good, and I'll go back and I grabbed one recently. It's not the same.
So the name is the same, but the flavor has
The
changed?
name is the same, but they've definitely changed somehow.
They
And
learned
it's-
nothing from Coca-Cola in the 80s.
I know. But for those that know, the OG cucumber lime
Yeah.
Gatorade,
It was dope.
it was immaculate. It was so good. So you play basketball. One of the things that I like to ask people is, what is a rule you would change? What's the best way to make basketball more fun to watch?
Okay. I think it's – can we say
You can add a rule,
women's basketball
subtract a
versus
rule.
men's basketball?
I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you
A little
want.
controversial
Sure.
about it. I think an 8-foot rim in women's basketball would make the game different. It would be more
Probably.
fun.
I
Because
think
my
so.
favorite part about growing up, especially about basketball, was watching great dunks, watching people get posterized.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. So the thing I always say, the best thing I would add is reverse the scoring system.
Okay.
Anything past the 3-point line is now just 2.
Okay.
Anything inside of it or under the rim
Is 1.
3.
Oh, well, I thought you were going to say dunk is 3.
Yes.
Inside the perimeter.
Okay, so dunk is 3.
Is 1.
Inside the perimeter is 2.
Or 3-pointer is 2.
3-pointer is 2. Or 1.
Because that'd be the same as like bags, right? If you get it in the hole, it's the highest points.
But I like the idea that game comes down to the line.
Yes.
You're not going to sit there by the logo and drain threes all day, which is, it takes a lot of skill. It's not easy to do.
Sure.
Steph Curry is amazing, but it gets boring. The 15th 3 in a row, you're like, all right, man, charge in. Like, I want to see you guys back.
It does, and I like shooters.
Yes.
I respect a good shooter.
So, like, if you think about, like, 90s basketball, Dennis Rodman under the rim versus, like, the Pistons, like, those were battles. I loved that.
Whenever anybody tries to bring the argument up about LeBron to me, I always say that there's no way LeBron is LeBron against David Robinson, Charles Barkley, Larry Johnson, Dennis Rodman. You're not bodying those dudes up because you're going to get hit. All this little flailing and flopping that you're doing now, like could LeBron power me down and just annihilate? Absolutely. So I'm not trying to be an armchair coach, but there's 2 guys in that same position I'd put over him in the top 5, and LeBron's probably top 5 of that position for me. But I'm taking Larry Bird number 1, and then I'm taking Scottie Pippen over LeBron James any day of the week.
Scottie Pippen even Michael Jordan has said Scottie Pippen's a better basketball player than me. He just, Michael Jordan just had, other things like the determination, the drive. Not that Scottie Pippen didn't, you know what I mean? But
Michael Jordan had a 6th gear.
Yeah.
When everybody else had 5.
He had that mentality, kind of like Kobe, kind of like, but like if you watch young Shaq, like as Shaq got older and he got thicker, he got a little bit slower, whatever.
Yeah.
But young Shaq was like,
yeah, Penny Hardaway and Shaq.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Anthony wouldn't have got hurt, they would have been contenders all through the early 90s.
One of the best Christmas gifts I ever got was a Penny Hardaway jersey.
I had the hat.
Oh, you did?
With the cent symbol. It's 1 and a cent. I had the hat because it had like a leather bill and like a cloth hat. It was dope.
Did you ever, best 90s fashion. Since, I would go, if you didn't have.
Starter jacket.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Yeah. I remember that I had a Hornets one.
Okay, so I had a Charlotte because the colors were just tight.
Yeah.
But my upgrade from the Charlotte's colors was my Anaheim Mighty Ducks. So I had a Mighty Ducks, but my very first one, so I had 3 total ever because they were very expensive. And The one that I still have fits me to this day because they were also better large. Like you get them XL, you get them XL. It's probably too big for me now, actually, because it's like an XL. Was my Notre Dame one. So me and like a small group of my buddies all had college ones because we were like, oh, we don't want to be like everybody else. Plus, I grew up in North County, St. Louis, so we couldn't wear certain ones to school. We couldn't wear Dallas Cowboys or Chicago Bulls because of gang colors.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had a Notre Dame, and my other good buddy Jesse Roberts had a shout out. He's a chiropractor now. He had a UNC one, so North Carolina, which is very baller. He was ahead of his time. My buddy Lou had Michigan, and then my other friend Roger had a Illinois, Fighting Illini.
Well, see, like living in Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Yeah. You could wear whatever you want.
We could wear whatever we wanted, and we were Bulls fans, you know, because St. Louis, you know, Missouri doesn't have a professional basketball team.
No, not in our generation.
So we were close enough that we were like, it's so funny is that like in springtime when, you know, it's Cardinals versus Cubs in like late, you know, October and September, everybody was like, Chicago sucks, whatever. But as soon as basketball started, the red and black Bulls jersey came out, you know, everybody
was
had.
Like the regional. I feel like the region of, because you think Indiana too. So like Indiana, even that cusp right there was Bulls, and then you had the Pacers, which were strong. But like you go the other side, if you're talking about Iowa, talking about anything on the left side of our state, Kansas, all that, that's all Bulls fans in the 90s. That was Bulls territory.
Yeah.
All the way down to Arkansas, because who else are you rooting for?
Well, I mean, why would you? Well, it's like baseball. Have you ever seen the baseball map of like fandoms? The Cardinals have they have like almost all of Kansas even. Like there's a little blue dot in Kansas City of like Royals fans.
Sure.
But then they even go as far south like into Tennessee and a little bit of Alabama, and then
Oklahoma,
Braves
probably.
Fans take over.
Oh, yeah.
Braves fans have a huge chunk.
Southeast is Braves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like most of the Midwest is Cardinals fans.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. But I mean, I obviously love it.
Yeah.
You know, except for years like last year. But it is what it is. You know,
Right.
You take the good and the bad. That's what.
And then you have the facts of life.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said that you like is you like eating strange and exotic foods.
I do.
Okay. So I'm not saying you've ever had any of these, but which of these do you think would taste the best? We've got a century-old egg.
Brains, was that brains, tarantulas, and then the
brains, tarantulas, and crickets, and then the century-old egg in China.
That's called like a bakak egg or something.
I tried to look it up because I was like, I wonder what this is actually called, and everything. I just typed in century-old egg, and it just kept coming up as century-old egg is a delicacy in China. And
I believe it starts with a B.
Yes.
The original way they made those was to bury them for a long time, which helped the fermenting process. But now they make them in mass because they're like a delicacy. Which do I think would taste the best? I've had everything on the right. I've had tarantula. I've had cricket. I've had brain before. I've had sheep's brain, and that looks like that might be sheep's brain in the picture. I've never had the egg, so I would want to try the egg. So every spring, me and my sons do. There's a website that I'll plug for them. They're not paying me. I wish they would send me meat. Exoticmeat.com. Very basic.
Okay.
Because like in my Google search, I searched exotic.
You know,
meat.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
You get all. I mean, like
boar, bear, alligator. Like some of the stuff now you can buy in stores actually, right? But like some of the weirder stuff I've had that was actually really good. Kangaroo.
Yeah, I've had kangaroo.
Yeah.
My sister lives in Australia, and I've been down there to visit, and it's not a thing, you know.
Right, and people here are like, "Oh, kangaroo, dude." I'm like, "It's like a deer. It's like they're deer."
It's literally like a deer. Like they so Australia very strict gun control, but they allow farmers to shoot deer because they're also
Pests.
dangerous.
Yeah,
they're like
hitting cars left and right.
They're super strong, and if you run into one, like they are not tame. Like,
no, and they'll drown you.
Yes, there's a video I was just about to say about a kangaroo, and it's like holding a dog under the water, and he's like, you know, yeah, exactly.
But people didn't believe that too, and I've googled that for several people because it's not just that dog. It's that they inherited that practice from protecting them from dingoes.
Yeah.
So they'll back themselves under the water. When the dingo follows in there, they'll use their legs and they'll keep kicking them underwater and drown them.
And it's, you know, I mean, makes sense. But also when you have a sheepdog, you know, it's like, it's not a dingo. It's my border collie. Could we please? Yeah.
So you've got a wild animal with a tail stronger than any two man's arms combined, feet stronger than anything we could ever do, and they have hands. And their first instinct is to drown you. Like they're methodical killers, dude. Like eat those animals.
And those are the big red ones. So I didn't realize there's big red ones, and then
Yes.
there's gray ones that
Yep.
are much, much smaller.
Almost the size of wallabies, if you will.
And I went to Australia one time, and my sister was like, "Oh, let's go to this place you can feed kangaroos."
Yeah.
And I'm just feeding them, and they're kind of like coming around me, and I got very uncomfortable very quickly. Like I'm a tall dude. The
red ones are your size, aren't they?
The red ones are even. I think they're like 6.5, maybe 7 feet tall.
Yeah, they're big dogs.
But even the gray ones, which are like 2.5 feet tall, maybe 3 feet tall max, even a couple of them around me, I was like, oh man, this could go south real quick.
Yeah.
Like if they decided, like, hey, let's beat this guy up.
They got little biceps.
They have biceps, they have shoulders, and you like see it, and then like you can touch them, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a solid animal.
Yeah.
This isn't. This isn't a Pomeranian. This is a wild animal. Yeah.
So I'd say that brains would taste the best because I've had the insect things. I searched high and low to actually be able to eat tarantulas and scorpions because I wanted to try both of those. A lot of to me, the insects didn't really have a taste.
I would have to go tarantula. I've had crickets. I've had like the barbecue season crickets
Sure.
and stuff. I've never had tarantula. I've never had scorpion, but those are the ones I would go with, just because the texture. I could crunch through some animals like that.
Sure.
I've had sheep brains,
Yeah.
and they weren't bad,
No.
but they were kind of in like a paste almost.
Okay.
Like it was
More like a foie gras.
Yeah. And I had that, and it was okay. My son had it, and we were in Scotland. We were like, why not? We had haggis. That was delicious. I could not do the egg, just because of the texture. The jelliness.
I was going to say,
of
does it turn into like a gelatin, you think?
That's what it looks like in this photo right here. So I'm like, I don't think I could. Just the texture
Looks
alone,
like a gobstopper.
and I'm assuming the smell, because I know what 2-week-old eggs smell like. So
Shit, hard boiling an egg like the day of it stinks after you pull it out of the fridge.
yeah, I can't. I would.
I wanted to try it because there was something similar to that Anthony Bourdain. You ever watch his?
Oh yeah.
Ate those birds. They're like
Yes.
not developed eggs. Right?
Like embryo of the bird. Yeah.
And he's like crunching through the bone and skull.
yeah.
Even that I would eat once.
I could. Yeah, I would try it. I like trying weird things
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, why not? But I don't think just that alone, just thinking about my teeth like slicing through that. No thanks.
But you said which would taste the best, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm going with the brains because I believe, from what I've eaten and what you've eaten in brains, then you could season them in a way that would probably be pretty decent, especially like on a sandwich,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And I
yeah,
wonder
yeah,
if you,
yeah,
I wonder
see
if you
that.
could maybe like kind of caramelize the outside a little bit, kind of saute it, smash it down, make it like a little patty.
Wow, you're a much better cook than I am, because I would be like, yeah. You just like.
Boil it.
Yeah. Put some peanut butter there. I don't know. Okay, best '90s action star.
Ooh, yeah.
This is a hard one. I was thinking about it earlier when I was.
Well, I'm gonna use some deductive reasoning to eliminate a couple right off the bat, and by a couple I mean Jackie and Will.
Really?
I'm gonna take them off. Here's why. Will, I think, didn't really become an action star to me until late '90s.
Late '90s, early 2000s is when he had his peak.
Yeah, because like Bad Boys was like mid '90s, maybe.
I think the first Bad Boys was like 98, 99.
I don't know,
maybe.
man. Let's Google that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Marissa Tomei. No, what was that chick in it? Was
Téa
it
Leone.
Téa Leone? That's right.
Yeah, I had a big thing for Téa Leone.
Well, as a dark-haired gal, blonde not so much for me when she was blonde, but
Really?
yeah. So Bad Boys I think was earlier.
You're right. 95.
Yeah, and
95.
but his breakout, like I didn't really think of that as actiony. As it was more of a Die Hard, but kind of a buddy cop, Die Hard movie. I'm gonna go with Arnold as number one,
Oh, yeah. He's obviously the king of 90s action.
and I feel like he has the most unattainability. Like I feel like a well-trained anybody could do what Bruce Willis did. What he was supposed to be, what he represented in movies. He was an average Joe who
Yeah.
became a hero.
Yeah.
Which is great, and that's cool. Man, Jean-Claude Van Damme, though. Like, if I had a nickel for every time he did the splits.
I was about to say, yeah, just as far as unattainability, I don't know how
Blood
flexible
sport.
you are, but
I'm not splitting.
I'm not splitting. Did you see that video where they had him in between two semis?
The trucks. The
Like,
Mercedes.
I can't even get my fingers to do the splits.
Yeah.
There's no way my legs are moving that way.
That was like Mercedes or something, I think.
yeah.
Right?
Between two cars or
Yeah, it was a European commercial. But the video was online. Man, you know, Stallone's cool, but like I just not the outside of Rocky, his relatability to me was not as fun. But there's every time Commando or Predator comes on television, I'll watch it, and that's the thing. I think the longevity, because Van Damme he's a bad mamma jamma, but outside of Bloodsport, you know, and then he did
he had a lot of like
similar stuff,
bad action movies,
right?
You know what I mean,
right?
But
and he was very similar.
Yeah,
he was like a character actor for action. He always played himself, in my opinion.
Yes.
Arnold, to me, had a variety, right? Like, because Commando was pretty cool. Like, that's when his daughter was Alyssa Milano.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He had to go to the island.
Is that the one where he gives his girlfriend the rocket launcher and she shoots it backwards?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not his girlfriend. That's a chick that he ran to at the airport. He had just met her at the beginning of that film.
Okay. I thought,
she was driving like a Miata, and he which seemed feasible for his size, ripped the passenger seat out and sat in it so he would be lower than the thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, drive. And he like had her go up, and that's how he got onto the wheel well of that 747, climbed up in there, and then like, yeah, it was great. It was a good movie.
I guess I need to go back and watch it because I met her as like love interest. I assumed that's what she was.
Yeah.
But I remember
in that sense,
part
it very much is.
Because I always, as a kid, I definitely, before I joined the military, I always was like, how do you know which side the rocket comes out of? Like when I'd look at a bazooka or a rocket launcher or whatever, I'd be like, I think I'd fire that backwards.
Well, because by the time you get them, there's empty.
Yeah,
which they are too in there, but there's the bazooka that we had that folds out.
Yeah,
the buddy's dad had one or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I knew is because of the way the sight was shaped.
That
it pops up.
It definitely has an arrow on it. Like points. It's like, okay, this one, point this one.
Yeah, and then just Jackie Chan, man, he's a bad mamma jamma, but I just never in the 80s and 90s I was never like enthralled with him. So I would say Arnold, because it's just like I said, the variety too. You think about the difference in like Predator, Last Action Hero, Total Recall, like he was almost a different Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian we had on VHS. I used to watch a lot as a kid, and so to me he had a spectrum without saying anything. Terminator, like he was all over the place. These other guys were kind of character actors within their realm, outside of maybe like Rambo and Rocky. But then again, too, I feel like Stallone has he's the police academy of action films.
Yes.
There's 6 versions of his best 2 characters, quite literally.
Yeah. It's not a whole bunch of, he's not a whole bunch of different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had Cliffhanger, but that's, and I still consider that an action movie, but it was, it
was a story.
It was a story. Yeah.
Because John Lithgow's not exactly an action star. He was the primary bad guy.
Yeah. I was never a huge Jackie Chan fan, like you said, during the time. But looking back on it now and realizing that, like, everybody loves Tom Cruise, you know, or well, not really,
he does his own
but
stunts.
he does his own stunts. And it's like, oh, wow, he does. And it's like, yeah, dude, Jackie Chan's been doing that for 30 years.
Yeah, without a harness.
Yeah, he is. And it's like, looking back on that now, and I saw a video recently of, it was like him and his daughter, and they were watching all the times on set that he had been hurt. Broke a bone, or the stunt didn't go right, or he fell, or whatever. And he's just sitting there kind of nodding like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And she's like bawling. And it's like, it's an emotional thing because she's like appreciating how much he had to go through.
Yeah.
That a lot
tearing
of these
himself
guys
down
didn't.
For decades.
For decades, just to be and he was the sidekick for a long time. And then even when he had his own movies, they dub over his voice, or so it wasn't him.
Yeah, like Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, and they would hire him because he was cheap. You know, it was a lot cheaper to be like, well, you're going to be in the movie, but someone else is the star. You know, whatever.
Right. So well, Arnold talks about how he did his own stunts in Conan, because there was 2, Red Sonja, and then it was a spinoff. But because only the long shots did he ever have a stunt double on, because no one had his physique. Like there wasn't stunt doubles with a bodybuilder physique back then.
That's true.
And so he just had to do his own stuff. And he was talking about one time where he gets like pushed back by a wolf and like falls down like rocks and like jacks up his ribs and stuff because like nobody could stand in for him. He was a giant.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I've never thought about that. When you have a very specific, I guess, look and fitness level, you don't have a lot of people who can keep up, to replace you.
And he's tall for Hollywood, right? People
That's
are not
true.
tall in Hollywood. He's 6'2", which doesn't seem tall to you or I necessarily. But when you get into a crowd, if you go to the pageant or something, you're in a concert, I never think of myself as tall until I'm in a crowd and I look and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm in the 10th percentile here.
Yeah, I've never looked at I forget how much bigger I am than people until sometimes like we're because a lot of times I sit down and I talk to people and we're eye to eye, you know. The only time I will ever notice if someone's shorter than me is if they avoid eye contact. And then I'm like, I don't know why, but then it makes me realize like, oh wow, you're a lot smaller than me. Yeah. I don't notice that until like if I talk to you and you're kind of like, like it's one thing to look away when you're thinking about something, but to not be able to hold eye contact, I'm like,
they're subconsciously afraid of you.
Okay, like now I realize you've made me realize that I'm bigger than you, and I didn't think about that before at all, and I don't know. So that's always something that kind of annoys me a little bit, I guess. But then again, there's some people that are like super afraid of eye contact, and you just like, okay, all right, well that's I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable, but I'm going to make eye contact with you. Talking about doing it on stunts, I just remembered on the first Rambo, First Blood, there's a scene where he jumps off the side of a cliff.
That waterfall?
Into a waterfall, but there's also another scene where he jumps off a cliff into a tree, and he actually had to do it because no stuntman would agree, and he broke like 4 ribs because he landed on a branch. Yeah. And there's a shot of him like, he jumps off, he grabs it, and he goes, ah, like that. And that's really him doing that because he just broke 4 ribs.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, but I still don't think he's in the top. No, you're right. You mentioned that you have kids. So one thing I like to talk to parents about is what's the best show that your kids were into that you ended up enjoying?
Well, 2 different ones because I've got a 20-year-old son. So what we were watching was very different than what my 9-year-old son watches with me.
Yeah.
But so my 20-year-old actually got me into what is now one of my favorite movies, which is Hot Rod.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love that. Cool beans. Like that whole scene.
Yes.
Everything.
And consequently, later on in life, he actually introduced me to another movie, which is very underrated, and I encourage people to go watch this, is Good Boys. If you've never seen Good Boys, it is hilarious.
That's with the kids?
It's like Superbad, but like 12-year-olds.
Okay, yeah.
And so the concept is just hilarious because they're just off the wall. But like as a boy growing up, like that's how we were when the parents weren't around. Like not necessarily like bad, but mischievous, different language barrier. With my 9-year-old, we have watched this all the way through now, this cartoon series a couple times. Like when we do road trips or something, he'll have it up on the screen while we're doing it, and I'm probably glancing at it more than I should while I drive. But Gravity Falls.
Oh, my kids loved Gravity. Me during the pandemic. Yeah. My daughter is 6.5 years older than my son.
Okay.
So they needed something. There was very few things they were both interested in, and they started watching Gravity Falls. And I was, I'm home a lot, and I would get into it, and now. It's a
fun show. I wish they would come out in another season.
I have their like Instagram reels will show me something about Gravity Falls and like break down the episode of like, there's a whole other layer you might have missed. And I send it to my daughter and she's like, Dad, I don't watch Gravity Falls anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still good.
Like, don't you want to know why Bob's the Illuminati?
Yeah, exactly. And so it also, one of my all-time favorite things about a show is that it made 2 perfect seasons. And then left.
Yeah.
And they were like, nope, we're not making it anymore. And I love that. I hate it when a show runs for 30 seasons and then it's
Sons of Anarchy is a good example of that. I really enjoyed Sons of Anarchy until like season 5. And then they jumped the shark and kept going for 3 more seasons.
I say this a lot, and a lot of people will get mad at me, but I enjoyed Breaking Bad for the first 3 seasons.
Never got into it.
And then
I was very emo about certain things.
Yeah. I didn't get into it for a very long time until I had back surgery, and then I watched it with my wife, and same with Game of Thrones.
I was about to say Game of Thrones was like that for me. I was very emo about that. Everybody was into it, and I'm even kind of like a fantasy action guy. Like that appeals to me in some ways. And right before season 8, I binged 1 through 7.
Yeah.
And then I was like, anytime I think you watch like 7 something in a row of something, you're vested in the characters.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. It was May of 2018, I think. I had back surgery, and you're out for 6 weeks, and I was like, well, I have nothing to do, and I was a.
Did you have to watch TV up here? I don't know.
I had to. Well, I could lay on my side,
okay.
So I could still watch TV on the wall. I just had like a wedge behind me because you can't like. It's not fun. I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have to do it. And my buddy was like, "Oh man, that sucks," and he bought me a subscription to HBO, and so we could catch up on all these things, And then we found someone bought us the DVD pack of Breaking Bad, but we got it. I mean. I loved Game of Thrones. Again, first 2-3 seasons, awesome. Once it got into like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I was like, all right, I'm done.
And now there's a billion spinoffs.
Wrap it. Yeah. I can't do that. Walking Dead, first season, I loved it. By the halfway through the second season, when I was like, oh, now we have to learn all these characters and these sub characters and these. No, I liked it when it was like one guy on a mission to find his family.
Yeah.
Cool. Then he found them, and then it just kept going. And I'm like, all right.
Well, it's like what G.I. Joes and Transformers have done right. Even in their reboots, they're not like there's not a million characters to follow. The toy line, there was a bunch to collect, but like there were some primary characters in those cartoons growing up.
Yeah.
And they were easy to follow.
Yeah. It just gets to be too much after a while.
Off topic before you bring this into the next one, when you talk about zombie stuff, I always thought it'd be funny to have a zombie show where they were portrayed as they used to be, slow, dumb, but they had like mundane jobs in everyday society, and we were just like used to them. And they just like interact like.
Have you ever seen Shaun of the Dead?
Yes.
They kind of hit on that towards the end, like at the end, they're just like, well, zombies are part of our lives now,
But they're still like shooting them. I think it'd be cool if they're like bagging groceries and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what at the very end of Shaun of the Dead, he's playing video games with his best friend who's a zombie.
Oh yeah.
And the guy's just like,
yeah.
And then they have people at the grocery stores that are like they have a chain around them and they're pulling the carts back in.
Okay. Okay.
So it does do like some fun stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that would be a good idea. But then I also wanted to see like a sitcom about imagine all the characters in The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to go back and pick up their lives once it all like ends.
Okay.
So like the kid who's 18 has to go back to 3rd grade and learn, it's like, all right, well now we're going to teach you about American history or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, what? I've killed 97 people and I have to learn geometry.
Right.
Like it's just funny to think of him with a bunch of like 8-year-olds.
Once you've done this and then you go back to this.
Yeah. So I always wanted to see that. Like how do people go back once that starts? This one might not apply. I don't know if you were into. See, when I was a kid,
I watched Cartoon Network.
Yeah,
but I was born in '83 too.
Yeah,
so my Saturday morning cartoons were different.
A little bit different. Yeah. So what was the best Saturday morning cartoon? That's kind of what I meant. I should have worded it differently.
No, not at all. I mean, I get in a lot of these, like excluding like Samurai Jack and like Courage the Cowardly Dog. There. I still know all these because I was in the cartoons, but a lot of these were 80s cartoons. They were just reboots or the same ones. Like Flintstones was 80s cartoon. Ed, Edd and Eddy was not 80s cartoon. Powerpuff Girls was not 80s cartoon, but Yogi Bear was definitely 80s.
Right.
Looney Tunes was Big Dogs. But I would say top 3 would definitely be Transformers, G.I. Joe, and then my number 1 was Thundercats. I just love
Thundercats. Thundercats. I haven't thought of Thundercats in a very, very long time.
I have a box series of those 3 cartoons because I've had both of my sons watch them when they were younger, and they both got it. Both my sons love Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, so like the Holy Trinity of Michaels, those and Mike Tyson, and then they know what they can reference like classical music and these. I shouldn't say classical music, classic good songs from like the 80s and 90s, and then these 3 cartoons like basis. And the movie The Labyrinth we're big on.
Oh, yeah. David Bowie, I used to try that. He has like a little glass ball that he like does some hand motion with.
Yes.
I've
That's
tried
a stand-in,
so many
by the way.
times. Yeah. I found out later, but as a kid, do you know how many times I had like a pool ball and I would try and like do that and then it would go flying?
I had those little Chinese things I got from Epcot Center that I used to just do that with constantly. But only 2 of them. I couldn't do
Did it
3.
drive your parents nuts?
No, they got them for me. My grandparents got them for me.
Yeah,
but that's because they're calming. They're supposed to be like the ones that are the Asian ones that we got from Little China or whatever in Epcot Center had like a very soothing dung, 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 dung sound. Like it wasn't like bam, bam. You know, it was very soothing.
That when fidget spinners and fidget things were popular a couple of years ago, my kids had them, and it drove me nuts at first until my mom told me one day, she's like, "You used to fidget all the time. You always had something in your hands."
Going on.
I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense." And then I was like, maybe I should stop being a jerk and just let my kids be my kids. I would say definitely, okay, so the best 90s cartoon, it's kind of hidden in here, but Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Oh, it's hilarious. The talk show?
Yes.
Oh, I see what's his name there, the Mantis.
Yeah, the Mantis. I can't remember him.
Oh, and Space Ghost is right there in the back.
Is right here. I don't know if you remember Brack.
Yep, he was like the Ed
he was the idiot. He was the
Yeah, but I was trying to think of what was Johnny Carson's sidekick? Ed McMahon.
Oh, yeah.
He was like Space Ghost Ed McMahon, wasn't he? Or was that the Mantis?
Well, the Mantis. No, he was. He was more like the Ed McMahon because he was kind of there to play the joke on, and he was the dumb one.
That is weird, wild stuff.
Yeah, the Mantis right here was the kind of like the contrarian.
Yes.
Like, and he would butt heads with Space Ghost.
Yeah, you're an idiot, Space Ghost.
And I loved it because my dad had Space Ghost when it's in its original form.
Yeah, because it was like a 60s or 70s cartoon.
Exactly.
Right?
It was the 60s and 70s. It was one of the first cartoon superheroes ever. And Space Ghost could turn invisible. He could like shoot rays out of his hands, and then he could live in
fly.
space. Yeah, that was.
Or did he have an invisible, like a Wonder Woman plane?
I don't know if he.
Or was he flying?
He could turn invisible himself.
Yeah. Okay, so he flew, but he could turn invisible.
So when my dad would like walk in they were very strict about what I could and couldn't watch.
Yeah.
So like when they would walk in the room and he'd be like, "What are you watching?" I'd be like, "Space Ghost." And he's like, "Oh, we had that when I was a kid." And then he'd leave, not knowing it was the same as like Johnny Carson, just in cartoon form.
Because he would have real guests on, right?
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And it was almost like Between Two Ferns, but before Between Two Ferns was, because it was very satirical.
It was.
Like it was dry humor, and he'd be like, because Space Ghost would be like doing something else, like while they're talking to him or whatever, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's really great," and he was like doing something.
Yeah,
and he's got like some important guest on.
I think he'd like just shoot somebody with a laser or something.
He'd be like, "Sorry, let's get back to what you were saying."
Yeah. Anyway,
Shout out while we're on that. I'll pass this over to you real quick so you can check this out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've done anything with our good buddy Max Price there. His sister painted. That's my family portrait. That thing is 6 foot. If you scroll left or right or whatever, that thing is 6 foot by 4 foot. And obviously, I'm modeled after Jared. That's the throne for the Goblin King.
Yeah.
And each of my sons got to pick how they wanted to be represented. And our dog,
Spider-Man, and then what is your oldest son?
Napoleon Bonaparte. He wanted to be in a period piece.
Okay.
And then that's our dog that passed away, Buzz. So the rhino has an ear tag that says Buzz on it, but my sons wanted him represented as a rhinoceros.
That's awesome. Send those to me, and I'll put them in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so funny. Yeah, Max is hilarious. He's a great dude. Been doing it a little bit longer than I have, but he's been,
very kind dude.
Yeah, very nice, and will take like talks to comics and kind of like, hey, you're doing this, you're doing that, you should, maybe focus a little more this way or that way, or like if somebody has bad habits. Because there are, comedy's pretty open as far as you can do what you want, you can say what you want, you can be who you want, whatever. But there are like good and bad habits.
Oh, yeah.
And
the scene's a lot less clicky. Like when I was getting onto the scene like 20 years ago,
right,
very clicky. And I had a radio show before I did stand-up. And so I used to have people come onto my show on a segment called Sit Down with Stand-Ups, which Enzo and I are getting going at the Funny Bone in Westport.
Enzo's actually coming by later today.
Really?
That's why I couldn't push it back. He and another guy of ours, another veteran comic, Clay Beiersdorfer.
Okay.
He's he is a veteran comic, but he's a veteran
and a comic.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's coming by later. We're doing something, but anyway.
So he's carrying that segment on, but a lot of the comics on the scene were very standoffish towards me, and I won't mention any names because there was a lot that were cool too, but I was like, hey, do you guys want to come on my show? And instead of being like, yeah, let's take advantage of this platform that you have, it was more like, why do you get a show? You're not out here 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week grinding it out. And I'm like, well, no, I have like a job and I have kids and I have to do this and that, and it's a hobby for me. And
that's exactly why I started this.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I started.
And so, but there was a lot of resentment and a lot of like, I don't get invited to certain things because I was a different sort of whatever. And now I feel like it's way more laid back. And a lot of the dudes that were like that and women that were like that back in the day have come around to be more humble and gracious because they've grown up and understand that like, it's not tough. Even if you bomb or if you only do it once or twice, like, kudos to you. Like, I was on a show, the Zach and Pat show not long ago, and Zach was talking about, he's like, I did it once and I bombed and I haven't done it again. And I'm like, how many people played professional sports? Like, good on you for getting up there and being brave enough to share your story.
Yeah,
you know?
Tried it, maybe. And that's just it, too. Like, there are comics that want to be serious comedians, professionals, tour, do shows, do that. And I think everybody wants to a little bit when they get into it.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, it is a job. You do need to take it seriously. It needs to take up a good part of your time. And if you're just looking for something like a Tuesday night bowling league, sure, come on out. Do the Funny Bone. Sign up. Hang out.
Right.
Laugh. Be cool. Nobody's going to reject you. Nobody's going to tell you can't.
No. Because we're all a little broken. That's why we do it, right?
We're just like, we're all just looking to make people laugh at the end of the day. Like, that's why I got into it. It was like, what do I want to do? It's like, I want to make people laugh. And so that's how I was like, how do I do that? And I started, and then it trickles out, but it looks different for everybody. So it's not cliquey at all. There are, but you talk about some people who weren't cool and then, changed their mind or whatever. When I first started this 2 years ago, I couldn't get a lot of people to come on. I could get my buddies, but I would ask other people like, hey, would you like to come do it? And they were like, oh, yeah, well, maybe. I don't, yeah.
Let's try next month.
Yeah, let's try next month. This isn't good for me. And then it's funny how I've been doing it 2 years. I've put out clips. I've had some success. I've had clips get 4 million views and stuff like that. And now people are.
It's almost like you got to pay your dues.
Yeah, people are sliding in my DMs and being like, hey, I'd really love to come and do this. And and be like, oh, really? Because I have an unopened message from you. Like I have a message you read and then did not respond to. And now you'd like to come. Okay, you can still do it. I'd love to have you.
Right.
But just remember, I also remember how you treated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that got a little. I didn't come up with any pictures of. I was trying to get a collage of pictures.
Yeah. Maybe you can plug them afterwards.
Yeah. But like best rock CD of the 90s. Because you're into rock, alternative music, kind of.
Yeah, I tried to. So when you asked me that, when we were kind of briefly going over what we're talking about, and I was like, I had to look up what genre my favorite artists were in.
Right.
Because I didn't know.
That's how I am.
Because I don't feel like Tom Petty.
Okay.
I didn't know that was considered rock and even Southern rock.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I would call it like easy listening almost.
Yeah, I would. Well, I know nothing of music. Okay. I like songs.
That's why I skipped your sports question.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about sports.
I don't see.
I couldn't name 7 professional athletes. And I used to have my show before it was satirical news on the radio was a sports show.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it was on Sunday mornings on AM radio.
I love football. I loved playing football.
Yeah, I watch football.
I want to do it constantly. I can't tell you 5 players.
Yeah.
I can't tell you who the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers is.
Sure, me either.
Once it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger anymore, I was like, all right, well.
Yeah, outside of like Mahomes and Kelsey because they're in other parts of pop culture.
You can't go 2 minutes without Mahomes on selling you insurance or
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of that, I don't know. But for best rock CDs of the 90s, there's actually, I think it's 90s. I'm almost sure it is. For a moment, maybe that's 80s. For a moment, Tom Petty teamed up with Eric Clapton, not Ringo Starr, one of the Beatles.
Oh, Paul McCartney?
Probably Paul McCartney. They were the Traveling Wilburys.
Okay.
So check it out if you get a chance. And
I've never heard of this.
It's like the Avengers of music. They were like nuts. It's amazing. And then I would say that the another top one, which actually kind of goes into the rock thing, Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge.
Oh yeah.
And then Johnny Cash when and that's late night. It might be 99. I don't think it was 2000. But Johnny Cash did a whole album, that Hurt song from Nine Inch Nails.
Yes.
And he did all these covers. Like, they're all covers and duos that he did in the 90s, like before the Johnny Cash movie came out. And that was a bad CD right there in a good way. Like, that was cool.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm so out of it on music when people ask me, like, what do you listen to? I'm like, whatever I want to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, like, there are Kanye West songs that I will listen to until the day I die.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Jesus Walks is a good one.
Jesus Walks is a great one.
Music sets my mood.
Yeah.
Or resets it if I'm in a weird way, if I need to feel something.
And there's there's great songs that are just like, oh, okay, all right, I'm all right. Like, yeah. I like Me and Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
You know that song?
Yeah.
The old, I don't know why. I listen to it. I'm a married man. I've never had an affair, never want to have an affair. But something about that song is just relaxing.
Yeah.
And so there are times when I've played it and my wife's like, what are you listening to? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just my feel-good song. I
wonder if, now that you say that, I wonder if Mr. Jones was also an adulteress.
Maybe.
Because him and, on the Black Counting Crows, they talk about Mr. Jones and me.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're sitting there oogling girls. Maybe the Joneses were
maybe Mrs. Jones had a reason for stepping out.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe.
Yeah, and that's because Mr. was also.
Oh, man. What a tangled web we weave, you know what I mean?
Maybe we just broke the bubble of don't keep up with the Joneses.
Don't keep up with them. No, they're
a dirty, rotten couple.
They're insatiable. Yeah. It's you can't keep up with the Joneses.
They have pineapples on their table.
Yes, and on their cruise ship doors and things like that. Yeah, that's a whole loophole we didn't go to. Best TV hospital.
Ooh.
If you woke up tomorrow and you were,
I'm glad you put this on here because I hate these type of shows, but I ended up watching so many of them.
Yes. Well, there's so many that are bad, but there are some good hospital shows.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Private Practice, Grey's Anatomy, like maybe the worst TV shows
like a soap
ever
opera.
Created. Exactly. Scrubs.
ER was dope because that was like the first one.
ER was dope, and it wasn't.
Was it not the
ridiculous.
first one?
It was more sitcom. Well, not.
I think it might have been the first one.
I think it was. I mean,
like of this genre.
I guess. All right. Technically, you would have to go with like General Hospital as the first one
soap opera.
Because it started. Yeah, but it was a soap opera. It wasn't real. This was a drama.
My good friend and mentor Sean Blakemore was on General Hospital for like 14 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh.
Real good dude.
That was the one that, like, so my family wasn't soap opera at all.
Yeah.
But everyone knew General Hospital.
Sure.
You know?
Well, in Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives is one I didn't even know about till later.
I think they were staples because there's like 7 channels.
That is true.
So
that is true. I remember as a kid getting up and going like clunk, clunk to turn the TV and then coming back to sit down.
Yeah.
And now my kids are like, I can't find the remote. And I'm like, you're fine.
I can't skip this commercial. And they get like irate.
That's something that I would say Scrubs. If I had to wake up in a TV hospital, I would want to wake up in the Scrubs hospital because it would probably be fun, funny, entertaining, and they had a pretty good success rate. Very few people die on Scrubs.
I feel like I don't know. Can't recall any, but I would say that 2 things. This will be our first good tiff because I disagree.
Oh, okay.
And lightheartedly disagree. And also a point of that show that I enjoyed actually was the cinematography, like the way it was shot.
Okay.
It's very similar to Community.
Okay.
Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, I loved Community.
The way it's set up, almost like skits within a day of the thing. Like they come back and forth, like you're following the story throughout the day, but like there's little side stories almost. So I enjoyed the way it was done, but something about those 2 dudes has always bothered me. Like those guys to me are in the same category as the whole cast of Up the River or Without a Paddle or whatever. Like those 3 dudes. I wish that canoe had flipped over. I wish that movie had turned into Deliverance so badly with Matthew Lillard, Dak Shepard, and Seth Green. Like
with Ethan Suplee back when he was 100 and something pounds heavier. Yeah. Okay, that's
no way those dudes are wielding a crossbow like Bert was, and I I wanted so badly for them to turn a corner and just get banjoed.
But you know what, though? Okay, I will agree that that movie, Without a Paddle, not a great movie, but that soundtrack, fantastic.
Yeah, late 90s soundtracks in general were bomb diggity. Like the Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack, Seth Green's in that movie too. Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack is good.
I know I've seen it, but I can't remember.
I'll share the soundtrack with you, but it's fantastic.
All right, sounds good. And then we'll do like one more and get you out of here. I know I want to keep you too long. Let me find. Okay. Best on-screen death in any movie.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be these three.
No. I always put pictures up there just to give people like reference.
Sure.
Because if I say what's the best movie you've ever seen, you instantly forget every movie. But if I put up like 3 pictures, then people are like, oh, well, I haven't seen those, but it does remind me of blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Yeah. And by the way, best on-screen death, you can take that how you want it.
I was just thinking in my head, I've got two with 2 different reasons.
Well, does it have to be sad? Does it have to be a good death? Does it have to be you know what I mean? You could interpret this however you want.
Yeah, no, my 2 are opposite ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
So let me tug on your heartstrings first. Bruce Willis, Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one with the Aerosmith song in the background?
Because you saw it coming.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be one. And the stoicism of Bruce throughout that film and how much he was like secretly rooting for Ben, but not really like on his side, but on his side.
Right.
He saw a lot of himself in Ben.
Yeah.
Right. And towards the end, he knew that at the end of the day, his death would affect Liv a lot, but Ben could console her and could carry on that family and be there for her. And he'd put him on that ship and close that door. Woof. And I've talked about it before. Like, I cried in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was in 6th grade, and I was with a girl, and I cried.
I mean, I can't think of a worse death, actually. That may be, like, if someone would have filmed you crying in front of the girl, that could have been the best death. You know what I mean? Like,
death of my manhood.
A love life. Yeah. Well, this is ending. I've done that before. I took a girl on a date once when the movie Up came out, the Pixar movie. I was like, oh, yeah, this
everything
will be fun.
Pixar puts out is a tearjerker.
It's going to be great. First 10 minutes of that movie, and I was in the corner, like, I remember, like, trying to be, like, and, like, wipe away a tear, like, as subtly as possible. Yeah. Because I'm like, I can't let this girl
They had everything I've ever wanted in a marriage.
Yeah.
And then they just took it away.
They had what I'm looking for, but subsequently also ruining my chances of it at the same time. Like, that's insane. What was your second? You said you had
the second one was funny, and it was Monty Python when the dude gets chopped limb from limb.
Oh, the like, Black Knight?
Yeah, merely a flesh wound.
It's merely a flesh wound. Get back I'll bite your ankles off. Yeah.
And I don't even know if he dies. He might still be alive when he walks away, but like to me that was such a great representation of like the over dramatization of the
Yeah.
You know, death scene, but he was just like, keep coming back. And he's like, what? Like it was a cartoon in real life. Like the Monty Python dudes, they did comedy right. And I hate, I strongly dislike, I try not to use the word hate because we don't use extremes.
Yeah.
I strongly dislike British humor.
Okay.
I don't relate to it.
Slapstick's not really your thing.
Yeah. I like slapstick done. I don't know, man. It's different. Like if I watch The British Office or like if I watch the old Monty Python show, it's very reminiscent of like the Benny Hill show.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like
yeah.
And I just didn't ever relate to that. But Monty Python and the Holy Grail was like, and maybe it's because when I watched it, who I watched it with, whatever. But just what a great comedy movie. And that death scene to me, or lack thereof, was a huge. I mean, that was a cultural icon thing, right? Like that's one of those like I'll be back things.
Oh yeah.
Like how many times have you probably said or heard people say like merely a flesh wound?
It's merely a flesh wound. 'Tis but a scratch.
Yeah. Like behind the rabbit, it is the rabbit. Like it was just a good movie.
Now Lancelot, was it Lancelot, Galahad, and I leap out of the rabbit. It's like wait, we leap out of where? Like, that's funny. Yeah. I think in that movie, though, the best death scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail is when the guy gets attacked by the rabbit.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end.
He's just going crazy.
Because just, that's it? That's the rabbit? And then
he's just sitting there like a little white rabbit. And
I love that.
When I was in high school, quick side note about rabbits, me and 3 of my buddies were like talking at football practice, and we were like side huddle, just talking about something, and one of our coaches, the quarterback coach actually, Shout out to Coach Parks. And he threw a football and like get our attention, and it like rolled into our little huddle, and I jumped back and audibly was like, ah, like I genuinely scared me. And my buddies, and I just subconscious, and my buddy's like, dude, what did you jump like that for? I'm like, dude, I thought it was a rabbit. And they were like, why would you be scared of a rabbit? And I'm like, if a rabbit's coming in here on 4 dudes, he's got something to say.
Yeah.
Like rabbits don't just casually walk up to humans, let alone 4 guys in pads.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. If this rabbit's coming after us, he's got something to prove.
Yeah,
guys.
I'm gonna be the first one gone. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I'm not fighting a rabbit. I don't know the first thing. So real quick, you want to say your social medias, and we'll plug the show one more time, and your company. Anything you want people to hear about?
Yeah. So Punchline Productions is my company, and we do podcasting and commercial work. Really excited to be working with you on this, and thank you so much for having me. I want to say that first. Like
I appreciate you coming in, and I'm glad that we can do it.
I love when anybody gives me a platform, and I enjoyed not only our conversation, but the give and take is cool. Like, I don't feel like you use this to like, you listened, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Communication is key, and I appreciate how this went, and I had a lot of fun. And to that effect, so Punchline is what we do, but you and I are going to be doing a show together.
Yes.
On January 25th, and that's why I want to plug, because that goes to Dog Nation. And so Dog Nation is an organization that raises money for hockey families or those who are in the hockey realm. And the proceeds to this one is going to a family that's in a lot of need and gone through some pain recently. And we'll kind of talk more about that as it gets closer to the show, just to kind of save face for the family. But I think everybody kind of knows who we're talking about within that thing. But you and I get to do some stand-up comedy together. Yeah. Our buddy Enzo, and then the great Scott James is with us also.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. I love both of those guys a lot. Enzo's been on here. Scott's been on here. So people who are fans of the podcast know both of them. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it should be fun. So that's January 25th at Adventure Unknown, which is 1505 Finn Park Drive, 63026. There are still some tickets available, but very few. Actually, we've sold quite a few tickets.
Nice.
So it's going to be a fun night. Beverages and food are included in that ticket price, and we'll be up on stage kicking it. And then Punchline Productions 314 on YouTube, and Punchline Productions on Facebook and Instagram.
That sounds great, man. And then the last thing I ask everybody before we get out of here is best way to fix this podcast. Any suggestions, questions, anything at all you can think of that might make it a little bit more fun to listen to or just to be on as a guest?
I'm learning. So, like, if anything, like, I could probably think of critique, but in the same sense, like, since I do shows now, like, when I go into a place, I was immediately, like, checking out your setup and seeing, like, what can I steal, ideas-wise?
Yeah.
You know, like, just to, like in the joke world, like, what can I bite off of you? Like, I love this idea. Like, how you have this up here and you're showing this. That's really cool. I don't know, man. I've watched quite a few of your shows. I think it's good. I don't know that I have any critique up front.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
I think you're doing a great thing here. I love the way that you're doing this. I love that you give this point counterpoint, because this, if someone can't hold a conversation but they may be an interesting person, you're given a reason to talk and things to talk about. So kudos, man. Like, if I think of anything, I'll text it to you. But
okay, all right. Yeah,
I had a good time, and I think it's set up really well.
I'll just, by the time this comes out, I'll be like, all right, well, guys, I got the text. And
there's 17 things.
Woof. My breath stinks. Okay, wow. I didn't know it smelled in here.
Stop making eye contact with me.
Okay.
You make me feel small.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to do the show. I'm glad we're doing it for a good cause. I like, everything you were talking about, even before we started recording, and how I appreciate that. Like I said, I like people that do good in the world. So I appreciate you coming on, and thanks. I'll see everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.